Right now, there might be a liquid sitting in your house that costs more than luxury champagne. Ounce by ounce, it beats out vintage Dom Pérignon. In rankings of the world's most expensive liquids, it shows up right next to Chanel No. 5 perfume, human blood, and snake venom. I'm talking about the plain old ink in your regular home printer, but the price of ink is only half the story. Here's the part that's even more interesting. To sell you that ink, companies practically give away the printer itself. Can you believe that? At first, it sounds like some kind of joke, but it's actually an old business model, over 100 years old. I'm gonna break down how it works and why you end up paying for it every single time you swap out a cartridge. There are 3 things to understand here. First, the real price of ink. It's genuinely high, but there's a myth around it that people keep trying to sell you. Second, why do companies sell printers so cheap that they actually lose money on them? And third, the ugliest part, what manufacturers built into cartridges to keep you locked in, and where this whole thing is headed next. Let's start with the price, because the numbers speak for themselves here. Consumer Reports has spent years measuring what ink actually costs. Here's what they found. Even the cheapest replacement ink runs about $13 an ounce. The priciest gets up to around $95 an ounce. To really feel the scale of that, let's convert it to gallons. The way we measure gas. That works out to up to $12,000 a gallon. Midst of that price tag, a gallon of gasoline practically looks free. And now for the comparison that brought us here in the first place. That same Consumer Reports analysis found that even the cheapest ink ounce for ounce costs twice as much as Dom Pérignon champagne. And that's the cheap cartridge we're talking about, not even the premium one. A single drop of ink from your home printer is literally more expensive than a drop of top-shelf champagne. The UK-based organization, which also looked into this, they found something similar. Branding ink is extremely expensive, and it can cost up to 286% more than compatible alternatives. Now let's dive in the popular myth here. People online love to say printer ink is the most expensive liquid on the planet. It sounds dramatic, but it doesn't hold up. Actual rankings usually put scorpion venom in first place. Convert that to a gallon and you're looking at close to $39 million. Next to that, printer ink actually looks pretty modest. That said, it doesn't make ink cheap. It still consistently ranks among the most expensive things a regular person actually buys for personal use. For something as ordinary as home printer ink, that's genuinely absurd. Now let's add one more unpleasant detail to this. Some of the expensive ink never even makes it onto paper. The printer uses part of it just to clean the print head, especially after sitting idle for a while. Consumer Reports actually measured this. On less efficient models, cleaning cycles alone can burn through more than $100 worth of ink a year. So you're buying a liquid that costs more than champagne, and the printer is using part of it just on itself. Which brings up an obvious question. Why does printer ink cost so much? Is there something exotic in there? Gold? Rare pigments? No, the ink itself is dirt cheap to manufacture. You're not paying for the liquid, you're paying for the business model. And this model is older than your grandfather. Let's go back over 100 years to a man named King Gillette. Yes, the razor guy. He came up with a scheme that was brilliant in its simplicity. Sell the razor itself cheap, almost for free. Give it away if you have to. Make your money on the replacement blades that people will keep buying over and over for years. The razor is just the entry ticket. The real money is in the blades. This model even got its own name, Razor and Blades. Now look at your printer through that same lens. The printer is the razor. The cartridges are the blades. They sell you the printer, suspiciously cheap, sometimes cheaper than a single set of replacement cartridges for it. And you know who actually confirmed this? HP's own CEO, Enrique Lores. At the forum in Davos, he said it flat out. No shame about it. We lose money on hardware, and we make our money on supplies. Do you get what he just said? A cheap printer isn't generosity from the company. It's bait, similar to Costco's rotisserie chicken, if you saw that breakdown. The printer lures you into a system, and then for years, you keep handing over money for ink, marked up by hundreds of %. The hardware itself doesn't matter to them. They're openly losing money on it. What matters is that you're now locked into their blades. But here's where this 120-year-old scheme runs into a problem old Gillette never had. Nothing stops you from switching razor brands. Want cheaper blades from another company? Go for it. The razor doesn't care. But printers have a loophole that really annoys manufacturers. Third-party cartridge for a couple bucks prints exactly as well as the brand name one for 50. So how do you stop people from jumping ship to cheap ink? The answer is hidden inside the cartridge itself, and it's exactly why HP keeps ending up in court. Modern cartridges have a microchip built in. Officially, it tracks the ink level, but it's also checking checking whether the cartridge is genuine or not. HP built a system into its printers called dynamic security. In short, it stops the printer from working with a cartridge that doesn't have the right official chip. It first showed up in 2016, got pulled after a wave of backlash, then quietly came back a year later. And then the story gets genuinely ugly. Sometime around late 2022 and early 2023, HP pushed out a firmware update that made printers refuse to work with third-party cartridges. People's printers just stopped printing devices they had already paid for. And by an interesting coincidence, right around the same time, HP raised the price of its own ink. The company got hit with a wave of class action lawsuits. When Lores was asked about this in an interview, he didn't dance around it. He said they're protecting their intellectual property. And if they detect a third-party cartridge infringing on it, they shut the printer down. Then, he said something that basically explains the entire business model. He said every printer buyer represents an investment for them. And if someone prints very little or doesn't buy their supplies, that person is a bad investment. Sit with that for a second. In their eyes, you're not a customer. You're an investment that's supposed to pay off through ink purchases. Bought their printer, but filled it with someone else's ink. To them, you're a loss that needs, and I'm paraphrasing here, to be cut. And to really convince you not to touch third-party cartridges, Lores threw out a pretty strange argument. He claimed a third-party cartridge could be used to smuggle a virus into your printer, which could then spread into your home network. Cybersecurity experts who journalists asked about this just shrugged it off. Technically possible, sure, but for a regular person, it's nonsense. If anyone bothered doing that, it would be aimed at big companies, not some random person's home printer. In other words, the virus scare was a stretch used to justify blocking cheap ink. By the way, how this legal saga ended is telling too. In spring 2025, HP settled one of these lawsuits and promised to make those firmware updates that block cartridges optional going forward. Basically a quiet admission that the whole thing was on shaky ground. And now for the ending, because this is really what all of this has been building toward. In that same interview, Lores named the company's ultimate goal: turn printing into a subscription. And this isn't just a future plan. It's already running. HP has a service called Instant Ink. You pay monthly, and you're not paying for ink. You're paying for a number of pages printed. Go over your limit, and you pay extra. The printer needs a constant internet connection so it can report back to HP how much you're printing. Sounds convenient, but there's an ugly catch that most people find out about way too late. Cancel the subscription, and your cartridges stop working once the paid period ends. Even if they're still 70% full, you never bought that ink. You were renting it. And more recently, HP took this even further and launched a plan where you rent the printer itself on a subscription with a 2-year commitment and a penalty for leaving early, which means now you might not even own the piece of hardware sitting on your desk. That's the whole point. Ink isn't expensive because it's hard to make. It's expensive because they took your choice away. The price on that cartridge is just the tip of an entire system built to keep you away from cheap ink. So what do you do about it? I've got 3 things for you. First, stop looking at the price tag on the printer. It's deliberately set low. Look at the cost per printed page instead. A cheap printer with expensive cartridges will bleed you dry within a year. Second, go with printers that use a continuous ink supply system. EcoTank from Epson, SmartTank from HP, MegaTank from Canon. You refill straight from bottles. The ink is actually yours. No chip blocks anything, and it costs a fraction of the price. Third, and this one's a rule for life, whenever something is handed to you suspiciously cheap, almost free, a free trial, a cheap entry point through a subscription, ask yourself, where are the blades here? What's the thing they're going to keep pulling money out of you for, again and again? For a printer, it's the ink. For a razor, it's the blades. And from now on, behind every price that seems too generous, you won't see a gift anymore. You'll see bait. And now that you've learned to spot where a business actually makes its money, you can't unsee it. You'll start catching this trick everywhere. In stores, in subscriptions, in cheap price tags with a hook hiding behind them. And that's exactly what we do here. We break down big companies and show you where their real cash register is, hiding behind a pretty storefront. If that's your thing, you know what to do. A like tells YouTube this is worth showing to other people. Subscribing keeps you around so you don't miss the next takedown. And in the comments, tell me which company to rip apart next. I read all of them and pick the best ones to work on. The more of us there are, the louder we can talk, and the bigger the schemes we can crack open. See you in the next one.